everybody. As you know, the Iowa caucuses are just 2 days away, and candidates have little time left to convince voters that they are the right person for the party. In this primary race, religion, of course, has become a key issue. Just how important is a candidate's religion to the voters?
Jay Richards is a research fellow at the Acton Institute and joins us to explain. Jay, when you think religion, when you think candidates, you think about Governor Huckabee. Yesterday, he made a moral decision. He is not going to air an attack ad, but he'll voice one over, he'll write it and put it together and show the press. Does that make a difference?
Well, no. I mean, the truth of the matter is, in this age of YouTube, if you can, you can display an ad and send it out, send it on the internet, or give it to the press, the publicity is going to come out either way.
Jay, do we have any idea how voters feel about a candidate's religion? Will voters vote for a candidate just because they are of the same religion, or do they just want to know that their candidates, have a sort of a moral code and are a religious person?
I think for most people it's really more of the latter. I mean, this election, perhaps more than any other, people are curious about the specific religious views of candidates, but I don't think it means that, well, I'm a Baptist and so I want to vote for a Baptist. It's that they're looking at candidates' religious views to try to see it as a predictor of what their policies will be. And so I really think that's a lot about what's going on in this discussion about the religious views of these candidates.
Yeah, I see a study here that 82% of Americans in 2007 told Gallup interviewers that they identify with a Christian religion. So as soon as they see that it's a Christian religion, they don't really care what form of Christianity?
Well, I mean, I do think that there's some diversity on the question. For instance, Mormonism. Mormons, of course, mostly perceive themselves as Christians, but a lot of conservative evangelicals and Catholics look at Mormonism with much more suspicion. And so there's going to be a lot of questions about that. But I don't think, for instance, the Catholic voters are going to vote for Rudy Giuliani because he's Catholic, especially because Rudy Giuliani actually sits on the opposite end of the spectrum with respect to the social views of the Catholic Church. And so I do think it's important that candidates air their religious views openly, and I think it's quite legitimate that voters ask these sorts of questions. But I don't think it's as simple as, well, I'm Catholic, so I want to vote for a Catholic candidate.
Well, if it's important that candidates air their religious views openly, Jay, what do you think, how effective do you think Mitt Romney's speech about religion and being a Mormon was? Did that quell anybody's anxiety if they had questions about Mormonism?
I do think that Romney made a very good speech, and frankly, I think as the campaign wears on, more and more of these suspicions are going to wear off. Romney, frankly, I think is performing very well. He gave a very good speech that I think answered all the sort of key questions that need to be asked without trying to distance himself from his Mormonism. He embraced it. He said, look, this is my religion. Everybody knows about it. It's important to me, but it's not as if I'm going to use all the jot and tittles of Mormon doctrine to decide some policy question as president.
And finally, Governor Huckabee talked about, is a minister. Is that something that he should dial back or bring forward?
I think at the moment he's at risk perhaps of overplaying that. I mean, we now know that he's Baptist. We know he's a sincere evangelical Christian. And so I don't think that's news. And so while I think it's relevant, I think he could be at risk of overplaying his hand if he spends too much time on that issue.
Gotcha. All right, Jay Richards from the Acton Institute, thank you for joining us this morning. Happy New Year.
My pleasure.